Welcome to Silent Betrayals. Please like this video and subscribe to Silent Betrayals. Let's begin. It was a kind of December night that chills you to the bone. The air outside was sharp and cold, but inside, the glow of Christmas lights and the hum of conversation made our home feel warm and festive. My wife, Lauren, was hosting her annual holiday party, something she always looked forward to. She had spent days preparing, decorating, choosing the perfect playlist, arranging the catering, and, of course, picking her dress. When she stepped into the living room that night, I couldn't help but stare. She wore a red dress that hugged her figure, and her auburn hair cascaded over her shoulders. She looked stunning, and for a moment I felt proud to call her my wife. But as the night went on, something felt off. At first, I brushed it off as paranoia. She was the perfect hostess, mingling with our guests, laughing, and making everyone feel welcome. But every time I turned around, I noticed her standing a little too close to someone, Jordan, her boss. He was tall, polished, and had that air of confidence that made him the center of attention. I never liked him, but I never thought I had a reason to be concerned until tonight. I watched them from across the room. The way her hand lingered on his arm when she laughed at his jokes, the way she leaned in just a little too close when he spoke. Something inside me churned. I kept telling myself I was overreacting. I mean, she was my wife. We'd been married for 12 years. We weren't perfect, but we were solid, or at least that's what I believed. But by the end of the night, I couldn't ignore it anymore. The party wound down, and most of the guests had left. I found Lauren in the kitchen, pouring another glass of wine. She looked up when I entered, her smile faltering for just a moment before she turned back to her glass. "Hey," I said, my voice steady, though I felt anything but calm. "Hey," she replied, her tone light, almost casual. But there was something in her eyes, a flicker of hesitation, that I couldn't ignore. "Having fun tonight?" I asked, leaning against the counter. She nodded. "Yeah, it was a good night. Everyone seemed to enjoy themselves." "Everyone, huh?" I said, my voice sharper than I intended. She froze for just a second before recovering. "Yeah. Why do you ask?" I stared at her, trying to find the woman I had married in the face that now seemed like a stranger's. "It's about Jordan," I said finally. Her hand tightened around the stem of her wine glass. "What about him?" My chest tightened as I spoke the words. "You've been spending a lot of time with him tonight. And not just tonight." Her eyes widened, but she didn't deny it. Instead, she took a long sip of her wine and avoided my gaze. "Can we talk?" she asked after a moment, her voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, my stomach twisting into knots. "Yeah, let's talk." She set the glass down and took a deep breath, still not looking at me. "Jordan asked me to spend the night with him." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. For a moment, I couldn't breathe, and I managed to choke out, "I've been thinking about it," she said, her voice trembling now. I don't know. I feel like I need this. Just one night. That's all." I stared at her, stunned. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My wife, the woman I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with, was asking for permission to cheat on me. "Are you serious?" I asked, my voice cold. She nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I know it's a lot to ask, but I feel like I need this. For me." Something inside me snapped. "Sure," I said, forcing a smile. She blinked, clearly not expecting that response. "What?" "Go ahead," I said. "Have your night." Her lips parted in surprise. "Really?" "Absolutely," I said, my voice calm. "But when you come back, don't expect me to be here." The color drained from her face. "What do you mean?" "You'll see," I said, turning on my heel and walking out of the kitchen. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? My mind was racing, my chest tight with rage and heartbreak. I thought about every moment we'd shared, every promise we'd made. And now, it was all crumbling because she needed one night. "No," This wasn't going to end with me being the fool. If she wanted her night, I'd give it to her, but not without consequences. While she slept upstairs, I started gathering evidence. Her phone was the first place I looked. She had no idea I'd figured out her passcode months ago. Sure enough, there were texts with Jordan, flirty, suggestive messages that made my blood boil. Can't stop thinking about last night. I feel alive when I'm with you. I took screenshots of everything and sent them to my email. Then I went through her social media messages, her emails, anything I could find. By the time the sun came up, I had enough evidence to destroy her entire fantasy. The following days were a blur. Lauren acted as if nothing had happened, humming Christmas carols, kissing me on the cheek like we were still the perfect couple. Meanwhile, I was preparing for the moment when her world would come crashing down. She had no idea what was coming. By the time Friday rolled around, I was ready. I'd spent the week quietly preparing, while Lauren carried on like nothing was wrong. It was almost insulting how easily she acted, as if her little confession didn't matter, as if I'd just accept it and move on. But I hadn't. I drained our joint accounts, leaving just enough for her to scrape by. The bulk of it went into a separate account in my name. I contacted a lawyer and started the paperwork for a divorce. Every memory of us together, photos, keepsakes, anything that once held meaning, was boxed up and stacked near the front door, waiting for her departure. I even cleaned the house. If she was going to destroy our life together, the least she could do was leave a tidy one behind. Friday evening, Lauren came downstairs wearing a black cocktail dress I'd never seen before. She'd done her hair in soft waves, her makeup flawless. Her perfume, the same one she'd worn on our wedding day, hung in the air. The irony wasn't lost on me. "I'll be back late," she said casually, grabbing her coat. I forced a smile. "Oh, I won't wait up. Have fun." She hesitated, as if sensing something was off, but eventually shrugged and left. The moment the door closed behind her, I sprang into action. I started in the living room. Every photo frame of us as a couple went into a trash bag. Our wedding portrait, the pictures from our vacations, even the little candid shots she loved to display on the mantel, gone. Then I moved to the bedroom. Her jewelry, the little trinkets she kept on her dresser, even her clothes. Everything went into boxes or garbage bags. But the piece de resistance was the dining room. On the table, I laid out the divorce papers, signed and ready for her. Next to them, I placed the printed screenshots of her text with Jordan. Every damning word she thought I'd never see. Finally, I took her wedding ring from the jewelry box and set it on top. The house felt eerily quiet as I finished. For the first time in days, I allowed myself to sit down and breathe. But I wasn't done yet. I grabbed my laptop and opened my email. I had already drafted 2 messages earlier in the week, and now it was time to send them. The first was addressed to Jordan. "Jordan, I just wanted to let you know that Lauren and I are done. Congratulations, you've got her all to yourself now. But before you celebrate, I've attached some screenshots of your little chats, just in case. Your wife is curious about where you've been spending your late nights. I've already sent her a copy. Consider this a Christmas gift. Cheers, Nathan." I hit send, attaching the screenshots of their conversations, and moved on to the next email. This one was for Jordan's wife, Sarah. Subject: something you should know. "Sarah, I thought you deserved to know that your husband and my wife, Lauren, have been having an affair. I've attached proof for your reference. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but I figured you'd want to know the truth. Take care, Nathan." Once the emails were sent, I leaned back in my chair. A strange sense of calm washed over me. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I had control over my life again. It was nearly 1 a.m. when I heard Lauren's car pull into the driveway. My heart raced, not with nervousness or fear, but with simmering anticipation. I didn't move from my seat in the living room, listening as her heels clicked against the hardwood floor. She called out my name. "Nathan." I didn't answer. A few seconds later, I heard her footsteps stop abruptly. She must have seen the packed boxes by the door. "Nathan," she called again, her voice higher now, tinged with confusion. I waited, counting the seconds until I heard her gasp. She had reached the dining room. "What the hell is this?" she yelled, her voice trembling. I stood up slowly, taking my time as I walked to the doorway. She was standing there, clutching the divorce papers in one hand and the screenshots in the other. Her eyes were wide, her face pale. "What's going on?" she demanded. I crossed my arms, leaning against the doorway. "It's exactly what it looks like," I said coldly. "You can't be serious," she sputtered, waving the papers at me. "You're throwing everything away over one night." I let out a bitter laugh. "You threw everything away, Lauren. Not me. I'm just making it official." Tears welled up in her eyes. "It wasn't like that," she whispered. "It didn't mean anything. I don't know what I was thinking." "You weren't thinking," I shot back. "You didn't care. You didn't care about me, about us, about everything we built together. You wanted your night. Congratulations. I hope it was worth it." She opened her mouth to argue, but I held up a hand to stop her. "Don't. Just don't. Pack your things and get out." "Nathan, please," she sobbed. "We can fix this. I'll make it right. I swear." I shook my head, my voice steady and calm. "It's too late, Lauren. You made your choice. Now live with it." She cried as she carried her boxes to the car, her mascara streaking down her face. I didn't move, didn't offer to help. By the time she was done, she looked nothing like the confident woman who had left the house hours earlier. When she finally drove away, I locked the door behind her and sat down on the couch. The Christmas tree lights flickered softly, a cruel contrast to the chaos of my life. But I wasn't finished yet. After Lauren left, the silence in the house was deafening. For the first time in 12 years, it was just me. No soft hum of her laughter, no smell of her perfume lingering in the air, just quiet. I poured myself a glass of whiskey and sat by the window, watching the snowfall. The Christmas lights on the tree twinkled cheerfully, a cruel reminder of what this season was supposed to represent: love, family, togetherness. But those things felt foreign to me now. I thought her leaving would bring me peace, but all I felt was anger, not just at her, but at myself. How had I missed the signs? How had I allowed her to betray me right under my nose? My phone buzzed on the coffee table, pulling me from my thoughts. It was an email notification. I picked it up and opened the message. Subject: "Thank you, Nathan. Thank you for letting me know. I've suspected something for a while now, but I didn't have proof until now. I'm sorry for what you're going through, but I'm grateful you told me the truth. I'll be handling this immediately. Take care, Sarah." I stared at the screen for a moment, a grim satisfaction settling over me. Lauren's betrayal hadn't just shattered my life. It had destroyed hers and Jordan's as well. The following morning, the fallout began. Lauren called me 8 times before noon. I ignored every call. She left voicemails, pleading, apologizing, crying, but I didn't listen to them. I didn't need to. I already knew what she would say. Excuses, promises, empty words meant to smooth over the irreparable damage she had caused. By early afternoon, I received another email. This one was from Jordan. Subject: "Let's talk." "Nathan, I understand you're upset, but this is a private matter between Lauren and me. I'd appreciate it if you didn't involve my family in this. We're both adults and can handle this like men. Thanks, Jordan." I laughed out loud when I read it. The audacity of the man was almost impressive. He thought he could dictate how I handled my life after he had invaded it. I didn't bother responding. Instead, I forwarded his email to Sarah with a short note. FYI, he still thinks he's in control. Good luck. That evening, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a call from an unknown number. Normally, I would have ignored it, but something told me to answer. "Nathan, A woman's voice, soft but steady, spoke. I said cautiously, "It's Sarah, Jordan's wife." For a moment, I didn't know what to say. Hi. I wasn't expecting to hear from you. I just wanted to say thank you," she said, "for telling me the truth. I've already confronted Jordan, and well, let's just say he's not as confident as he was when he walked into this house last night." I smirked, glad to hear it. "I also wanted to check on you," she continued. "I know this can't be easy for you." Her kindness caught me off guard. "I'm managing," I said honestly. "It's been a rough few weeks, but I'll get through it." "Good," she said. "If you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here." I think we both know what it's like to have our lives turned upside down by the people we trusted most. Her words hit me harder than I expected. "Thanks, Sarah. That means a lot." The days that followed were a blur of phone calls from Lauren, emails from Jordan, and a strange new sense of freedom. I had expected to feel empty or broken, but instead, I felt lighter. I didn't have to pretend anymore. I didn't have to smile through her lies or convince myself that everything was fine. By the time Christmas Eve rolled around, I had decided to leave town. The thought of spending the holiday alone in the house, where everything had fallen apart, was unbearable. I packed a bag, booked a last-minute rental cabin in the mountains, and hit the road. The drive was peaceful, the snow-covered roads quiet and serene. For the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. When I arrived at the cabin, it was everything I needed, isolated, cozy, and surrounded by nature. I lit a fire, made myself a drink, and sat by the window, watching the snowfall. My phone buzzed again, pulling me from my thoughts. It was another unknown number. I answered, half expecting it to be Lauren. "Nathan?" "It's Sarah again," she said, her voice warm. "Sarah?" I said, surprised. "Hi. What's going on?" "I know this is last minute," she began, "but I thought I'd invite you to my family's Christmas dinner tomorrow. It's not fancy, just a small gathering, but I thought it might be better than spending a holiday alone." Her offer caught me off guard. Spending Christmas with the wife of the man my wife had cheated with sounded absurd, but there was something genuine in her voice, something that made me consider it. "I appreciate the invite," I said after a moment. "I'll think about it." "Take your time," she said. "No pressure." Christmas morning came quietly, the snow outside falling in thick, peaceful flakes. I woke up in the cabin, feeling a strange mix of emotions, anger, sadness, but also a faint sense of freedom. For the first time in years, I didn't have to put on a facade or pretend that things were fine. I was finally facing the truth, and as painful as it was, it felt liberating. I made myself a simple breakfast and stared out the window, my thoughts drifting to Sarah's invitation. Part of me wanted to decline. Spending Christmas with her and her family felt like crossing an invisible line, as though our shared pain was some twisted bond that neither of us should lean into. But the idea of sitting alone in the cabin all day felt worse. After a long shower and some internal debate, I called her back. "Sarah," I said when she answered. "Nathan, hi," she replied, her voice warm and welcoming. "I've thought about your offer," I said, "and if the invite's still open, I'd like to join you for dinner." Her relief was palpable through the phone. "Of course it's still open. I'll text you the address. Dinner starts at 6, but come early if you'd like." "Thanks," I said. "I'll see you then." By the time I arrived at Sarah's home, the snow had thickened, and her street was blanketed in white. Her house was modest but cozy, with warm lights glowing from the windows and a wreath hanging on the door. When she opened the door, she smiled, a genuine, unguarded smile that immediately put me at ease. She wore a simple green sweater and jeans, her hair pulled back in a loose bun. "Come in," she said, stepping aside to let me through. The inside of her home was just as warm as I'd imagined. The scent of roasted turkey and pine filled the air, and a fire crackled softly in the living room. A few family members were milling about, chatting and laughing. "This is Nathan," Sarah said, gesturing toward me. He's a friend. Her introduction was met with a chorus of friendly greetings. I nodded, grateful that she hadn't explained the more complicated truth of how we knew each other. Dinner was surprisingly enjoyable. Sarah's family was welcoming, and the conversation flowed easily. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. I wasn't Nathan, the betrayed husband, or Nathan, the man plotting his revenge. I was just Nathan. After dinner, Sarah and I found ourselves sitting on the couch by the fire, sipping glasses of wine. Her family had retreated to the kitchen for dessert, leaving us alone. "I'm glad you came," she said, swirling her wine. "Me too," I admitted. "This was nice. I didn't think I'd be able to enjoy Christmas this year." She smiled softly. "I know the feeling. It's hard to find joy when everything you thought was stable gets ripped out from under you." I nodded, staring into the flames. "How are you holding up?" I asked. She sighed, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Better than I expected. Jordan is out of the house. I told him he could spend Christmas in a hotel while I figure out the next steps." "Good," I said firmly. "He doesn't deserve to be here." Her eyes met mine, a flicker of gratitude in them. "And you? How are you holding up?" I hesitated, unsure how to put my emotions into words. "It's strange. I'm angry, obviously. But more than that, I feel numb, like I'm watching someone else's life fall apart." She nodded, her gaze thoughtful. "It's funny, isn't it? How betrayal doesn't just hurt. It changes everything. The way you see them, yourself, your future." I looked at her, surprised by how deeply her words resonated. "Exactly." For a moment, we sat in silence, the crackling fire filling the space between us. There was no awkwardness, no pressure, just a quiet understanding between two people who had been through the same storm. As I drove back to the cabin that night, I couldn't stop thinking about Sarah. She wasn't just Jordan's wife anymore. She was something more, a person who understood what I was going through in a way no one else could. It wasn't love, not yet, but it was something. The days that followed were a strange mix of healing and closure. Lauren kept calling, leaving voicemails that ranged from tearful apologies to angry accusations. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I focused on myself, on moving forward. By spring, the divorce was finalized. Lauren had tried to fight it at first, begging for a second chance, but I stood firm. There was no going back. Not after what she'd done. Jordan's life had imploded as well. Sarah filed for divorce, and his affair with Lauren cost him his job after the HR department caught wind of it. He lost everything: his wife, his career, his reputation. As for Sarah and me, we started seeing each other a few months after Christmas. Slowly, carefully, we both needed time to heal. But in each other, we found something real. It wasn't perfect. We were both scarred, both hesitant to trust again. But we were honest, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was building something genuine. Looking back, I realized that sometimes life has to fall apart so it can come together in ways you never expected. Lauren's betrayal had broken me, but it had also freed me. It forced me to confront the truth, to let go of something that no longer served me, and to embrace a new beginning. This Christmas, as Sarah and I sat by the fire, her hand resting lightly on mine, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The past was behind me, and for the first time in years, I was looking forward to the future.